Hey everybody, it's Costas Tracks again from Nutu, and last time we were together I talked to you a little bit about what drove me to found the company. What I want to do today is talk a little bit about how I think we can achieve our vision, and that vision is to make healthy behaviors addictive. When people first hear that, they're thinking of people who are addicted to drugs or alcohol or something similar. And in fact, if you talk to psychiatrists about addiction, they'll say, listen, this is a brain disease that compels people to do something that's very bad for them. And so what we're really talking about here at Nutu, I guess, is hijacking the mechanism of addiction, not actually reproducing that same pattern where people are excluding everything in their lives in order to get at that one thing that they are addicted to. In fact, I think if it makes you feel any better, you should know that that underlying neurological process is actually fundamental to every habit that we form in our life, whether it's making up our bed in the morning, going to exercise every day, or remembering to take up our vitamins. All of these are underpinned by that same neurological mechanism. So what we're trying to do is to take that mechanism and actually pair it with something that we think is positive. Okay, so with that out of the way, people do always wonder if it can be harmful for us, then why is it that it even exists in the first place? And I'll sort of explain that, I think, right now off the bat, because it's important to understand why it can be harnessed for good, because it is something that has actually been a positive for our species. It's actually helped us survive for hundreds of thousands of years. So let's take this example of food, for example. So let's think about what it was like 100,000, 200,000 years ago, before we had the ability to farm, before we even tried that. Our ancestors basically would go out and they would hunt. If they didn't catch something, then there would be nothing to eat other than what they could forage around themselves. So the scenario that we can look at is an ancestor who is going through the forest, and she's trying to find something, anything that would be edible. Let's say she walks, into a blueberry patch somewhere. Blueberries are actually pretty good for you. She takes one, tastes it, it's not bitter, so it's probably not poisonous, and then she gets that sort of hit of energy from the sugar in it, has a couple more, it feels great. So decides, you know what, this is a great food source, I've got to remember this. What's happened is that those little fireworks that went off in her brain, yep, this is my brain, and this is those fireworks that are going off, have actually created this initial reward, that initial positive reward of finding something new out there that actually tastes good and makes you feel good. So that's no different than anything else in your life, whether you're riding a roller coaster, you get an A+ in school, you taste something that you really enjoy, that same sort of reward, that same fireworks is happening in your mind. But here is the interesting thing. Your brain will actually remember this. And then the next time you need to access it, it'll be there for you. So let's figure out how that looks. It's a nice little loop. Let's say this ancestor started to get hungry, or her tribe was hungry. Well, that is what we can consider a trigger, right? So that's the trigger, is hunger. They're going to want to try to overcome that trigger. Now we know that our ancestor has already found these bushes. What could she do? Well, she's going to take an action. That action could be as simple as walking into the forest where she found it before, right? So she knows where they are, goes back and gets more for the tribe. That's great. They eat those, and they get that same fireworks, the same reward that our first ancestor had. Well, this creates a nice little loop, because now anytime one of them is hungry, doesn't have any other food source available, is near an area that seems to be similar to where the original blueberry patch was, they'll be able to, if they get triggered with hunger, they'll take an action, they'll go somewhere that looks similar, or where they know that there's a patch just like the other blueberry patch, and they'll get their own reward, right? So this is really the fundamental cycle that is set up in their brains. You can essentially swap out any of the triggers, whether it's internal or external, any action, what it is that they have to do. The simpler the action, usually the stronger it makes the loop, and the reward itself can be swapped out. So it could be food, it could be it could be anything essentially that makes them feel good, that made them feel good. Comfort, warmth, you name it. Essentially, this was a cycle that was set up in the brain. It helped to keep our ancestors alive by making them go back and do more of the things that were good for them. That's really the fundamental thing to take away from this. Now, this is a great cycle, and while it does lead to addiction sometimes, it leads to every other positive behavior that has kept us alive as well. So that's the important thing. Now, the question is, how do you just hijack this loop so that it's not just about prehistoric sweet tooth, but something that is helpful to us? And the reality is that this has actually already been hijacked. There's a great book on it by Nir Eyal called Hooked. In it, he basically takes this and lays it out and says, how do you use this cycle for tech, right? And the reality is that every successful tech platform from Facebook on forward has actually applied this. And so let's take a look for a second at what Nir has actually created as his version of this. So essentially, these three are the same. He's basically said that they don't change at all. You need a trigger, you need an action, you need a reward, right? So nothing different there. The next thing, though, that makes it different for a tech platform than anything else is you need an investment, right? So this is a little bit different. This adds an additional layer of complication. What does the investment do? Well, think about it. If we use the Facebook example, the trigger, which we're starting with, could be something very simple. It could be something as simple as you get a notification on your smartphone, or you get an email into your inbox that says, hey, so-and-so has posted. So you go and take a look at what they posted, just out of interest. How do you do that? You open up your app. That's the simple action. The most simple action is the best action. If you make people jump through hoops in order to do what you want them to do, to get to your platform, for example, it's going to be a disaster for you. Now, the next thing is you're going to get a reward. On Facebook, what does reward look like? You see a funny picture. You see something sweet from that your friends' children have done. You see a dog basically chasing its tail. Whatever floats your boat, essentially. But that's your reward. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So you've already had your reward, but we want to keep you coming back to this platform. And if you stand back for a second and think, pretty much every tech platform has done this. So Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. So why couldn't you make the leap from Facebook to any one of those? And it's because of this. It's because of investment. So you have to take time and do something on that platform. By spending your time, like posting something yourself, making a comment, it keeps you coming back to that particular platform rather than anything else. So if you go back to our ancestors' sweet tooth model, this model could be applied not just to blueberries, but it could be applied to raspberries. It could be applied to bananas. It could be applied to any kind of fruit until they twig in that basically fruit are all sweet. They're good sources of energy, and we know where to find them. That can be applied anywhere. The investment piece, when you translate that into a tech platform and trying to keep people coming back to that same platform, that's where the difference lies. Now, you're not just going to Instagram or Snapchat when you've posted something on Facebook, you're going back to Facebook, right? And that's how you complete this as a cycle on one platform. So that's really about it. As I said, there's not a lot of magic to this. It's something that's already built into us. We're trying to take advantage of that, essentially, and try to pair that with something that is positive. What we talked about here, we are actually applying to the kinetic core game. And that's what we're going to talk about in our next episode. Until then, hope all is well, and stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel already, please do so down below. And if you haven't gone over to our Facebook page, please do that as well. We're going to have periodic updates on our content, some of the visuals, and some great news that is coming up soon. So don't miss out. Have a look at our Facebook and our Instagram, and click down below. Make sure you subscribe. See you later. Bye.